Decolonizing Great Water by Barber and Jillian Gelle. The Midwest belongs to many Native nations. The Mississippi Twin Cities watershed is territory taken from the Dakota and Ojibwe.
This actor network diagram outlines the four main factors affecting our watershed. The subcategories of the private and public actors cause so much damage to the shoreline and create a feeling of exclusion, not to mention the excessive runoff that impacts the ecological integrity of the watershed. Areas in red call out conditions of tension.
The Dakota and Ojibwe, both nomadic peoples, once relied culturally and spiritually on Minnesota's lakes. In the early 1800s, the land to the northeast of the Mississippi was stolen. The Twin Cities and Fort Snelling were established by white men. Then, in the late 1800s, the land to the southwest was taken and the colonization expanded, including agricultural land. In the early 1900s, the cities grew to a dense urban landscape, and Lake Minnetonka's shorelines were privatized. Around 1950, suburbs took over much of the natural landscape, extending through most of the watershed. Today, most lakes in this watershed have public land with access to water, but Lake Minnetonka's shorelines are almost entirely privatized. Compared to the rest of the metro area, Lake Minnetonka is highly wealthy and almost entirely white.
This drawing of Lake Minnetonka shows the contrast between the limited public access versus the private single-family homes. Large amounts of agricultural runoff coming from the northwest and residential runoff from around the lake contribute to the pollution of our watershed. Beginning with early summer, we see a time lapse of the effects that boating and lake culture has on the overproduction of algae. As we move into fall, we see the boating activity subsides, but the algae becomes even more apparent, further affecting the water quality and aquatic life. The culture of Lake Minnetonka is one of exclusivity due to privatization. For Indigenous people and the public, there is little visual access and even less physical access to the water and its shores.
Here, we are left with two questions. Spatially, what does it mean to decolonize Lake Minnetonka in a highly privatized and developed landscape? And can physical intervention on Lake Minnetonka's shores begin to mediate the relationships between nature, private actors, public actors, and Indigenous people?